Good morning, everybody. Let me get that out of the way right now. We will go back to the quote, but I did want to say welcome. It's good to be back. Remember that we are now doing these sessions every other Tuesday, so not weekly like we did before, but just every other week. And so next week we don't have a session. We have one the week after that. Well, great to be back, and I just want to welcome some of the people that we have joining in LinkedIn. Jesus, how are you? And welcome to anybody else who's joining in LinkedIn and the other platforms. I'm Eduardo. If you don't know me, I'm an executive coach and a former Fortune 500 CFO who's had the pleasure of making this pivot and now starting to really dedicate my life to helping others. And in the face of decisions that they need to make, changes, habits they need to break, big things, small things. So I get a lot of enjoyment working with my clients and helping them find the answers that they already have within. I also work with people who are very specifically trying to accelerate their careers. I call that consulting. That's not really coaching. But if any of these fits, if you want to find fulfillment and you want to connect better with what you believe you should be doing to live live a fuller life, to find solutions within yourself to things that you might be facing, small or big. If you want to accelerate your career, you know where to find me. Drop me a comment. We can get in touch. I'd be happy to offer a complimentary session, a coaching session, if that's something that you want to try, which I believe is always good for everybody. Like always, let me go and get started with our quote. And this one is, I think, particularly insightful. Patrick Lencioni is an author. I believe he's a professor at Harvard Business School. And he wrote a whole book on vulnerability. And I like this quote from him from that book. Trust is the foundation of leadership, and vulnerability is the gateway to trust. Meaning, if you are vulnerable, you admit that you are a human being, you don't have all the answers, you're not all knowing, you're not all powerful. You're going to become better because when you're vulnerable, you can definitely ask and look around and examine yourself to identify things that you could be doing better, things where you could leverage the support of others, and that'll just definitely act in your benefit. If you want to grow, if you want to become a better, more inspiring leader that generates trust in their teams, if you want to become just a person who inspires trust, the best thing that you can do is be transparent, is be vulnerable, and show yourself just the way you are. And that's what I like about this quote. So with that, let's move to the questions. I think we have some pretty good ones and pretty common ones too. For example, this one: how do I become a better public speaker? Speaking in public is probably one of the biggest fears that people have. I forget what I read this, but I think it ranks above, almost at the very top of what people fear. It's right up there with fear of snakes or fear of like skydiving. It's a big, big challenge for people. So there's no easy way and there's no magical recipe for anybody to become a better public speaker. What I will say is that it's something that comes with practice. You need to be ready. You need to prepare. And most importantly, I believe that you need to just be ready to embrace who you are and what you bring. So if you prepare, if you know the message that you want to bring, if you know exactly what you want to say, then you are going to be feeling less like you're spinning your wheels and wondering, what do I say next? You're automatically going to be able to rattle off whatever points you want to make, whatever messages you want to bring. So that's the first thing. The other is just practice. One tip that I remember from many, many years ago when I started doing this, one of my mentors gave me was, and that, I think this is pretty common and pretty old advice, is look at people in the eye one at a time and pretend like they're the only person that you're speaking to. So forget that there's a big audience a big auditorium or whatever the size of the audience you're speaking to is, and just focus on the one person. That'll give you a lot more ability to A, read the person, B, be yourself, and forget that you're so exposed looking at this bigger crowd. Other people use tips like, imagine that people, I don't know, don't have shirts on, or they are wearing funny hats or whatever. So the point is, they're human beings just like you. And if you imagine them just as vulnerable as you are, then it's a lot easier to let go of this fear. But I would think that the most important thing to say to you is accept it. It just comes with the territory. I've been doing this for a while. I have spoken in front of pretty large groups by now. And I honestly, I don't think that there's ever a point where you don't feel nervous or where you don't feel a little bit of apprehension before you go and talk to a group of people. It's actually a good thing because it helps you prepare. It helps you be more on top of your game. So know your stuff, prepare, prepare, prepare. I don't know if I mentioned prepare, but you should prepare. You should be ready, know your stuff, avoid spinning your wheels in front of the audience because that'll only make you more self-aware. And be ready to just be yourself and let go of the fear. If you are in front of a group of people and you are super aware of the fact that you are in front of them and that you are nervous, then you're going to create a prophecy that will self-fulfill. Focus on what you know, focus on what you prepared for, focus on what you rehearsed, and just deliver it, focusing on one person at a time. Make sure that you speak to everybody in the audience, meaning your eyes should be roaming all over the room, like looking at that person over there, this person here, that person there. Most people, if not all, should feel like you spoke directly to them. Those are just a few tips, not magic. It won't just happen. It requires practice, and I'm pretty sure that you're going to nail it. So let me know if that was helpful. Otherwise, we can always connect offline and discuss some more. Okay, let's go to the next one. How do I support a team member struggling with their workload? That's a great question. And I believe that what it really calls for is, first of all, analyze the general workload of your team. Does this person really need to have all that work in front of them? In my experience, oftentimes it happens that we as leaders or just organizations, not necessarily attributable to an individual, there's just so much work going around and not all of that work is justified. You have surely been in situations where unwittingly, maybe you just don't do something. There's something that you just cannot get to and you don't do it and nothing happens. Why? Because that is the kind of thing that it just grew and appeared, and it's something that you now need to do, but it doesn't really add any value. It doesn't really serve any purpose. It doesn't really help anybody. And that's an example of things that you could examine your workload, the workload of your team in general. So I would start there. What's your team doing, and are they doing everything that they're supposed to be doing? Secondly, examine the distribution of work within your team. Is everybody doing the same? Is everybody the owner of a, let's say, commensurate amount of work that would be fairly even across the team, that's an easy fix. So you can reassign tasks. Examine too whether there's any periodicity. Certain activities are at a peak at a certain moment of the year, and others might be at a trough at the same moment. So you might want to, or you might be able to rebalance such that the load is even across the year for these people. For some of the activities, you just cannot do that. And it's a reality of life that there are periods where the load is just heavier. There's more to do. Make sure that even though this is true, you're still not overloading somebody, particularly if they're a good contributor. Many times we tend to give people who are good and who show that they can handle more. And before you know it, people are penalized because they're good. They're just carrying a lot more of the weight than they probably should. And their only fault is that they're good at their job. So make sure that you are really focusing your organization on things that are value added, on things that really make sense. Analyze the distribution of work across your team, and make sure that the periodicity is something that you're taking into consideration. Now, does everything that you're giving them and your team, even if it's important, even if it needs to be done, does it need to be done now? Could you sequence things differently? Could you maybe postpone some of these activities for a later moment where there's more bandwidth for your team to handle that, to work on? I think that those are important considerations for you to think about. If there's a lot of work, then there's a lot of work. But I think that there's a lot of levers that you can pull to make sure that everybody is pulling their own weight, that everybody is bearing an equal load, and that there's no one who is disadvantaged from the perspective of doing more than others. Lastly, be honest with yourself. Maybe you're just not consciously dividing work. Maybe you just created a division of labor, to speak in those terms, that resulted in people being unequally loaded. So analyze, see if you might have made a mistake, might have unwittingly created this unevenness in the workload, and talk to the person. Let them know that you're aware. Let them know that you appreciate their hard work, regardless of taking work off of their shoulders. The first thing that I would recommend you do is be thankful. Because even if it's fair, unfair, it's a reality of life, whatever it is, your team member is soldiering through. They're helping you. They're making their best effort. So be thankful. Be appreciative. Let them know that you notice, and let them know that you're going to do something to help them. I will say that goes a long way towards at least giving them energy and hope and trust. Remember the quote that we just mentioned. If you admit that there's something you could have done better, if that's the case, then they'll trust you that you're open to this feedback and that you're there, you got their backs. So I hope that helps. And make sure that everybody is telling you if their workloads are within what they can handle, or if there's any opportunity to revisit. Talk to your team. They can also help you identify better ways of doing that. Okay, let's go to the next one. How do I plan for a career change during my mid-40s or mid-50s? Carefully. I think that this is a serious move, particularly the older you get. That said, it's not something that you should shy away from. I have in my coaching practice clients who are within this age range and they're not happy with what they're doing. And they're very afraid of letting go because their age, or their fear is that because of their age, they will find it difficult to find a new job, to land somewhere else, to do something new. This fear might be partially justified. I'm not going to say that this doesn't happen, where older people might find it a little harder to find a job. It could be, right? We've all seen it probably. But I would say that the first thing you need to do is understand whether you really want to do that. And if you do, then start to think, since you're going to wipe the slate clean, so to speak, since you're going to change the page and go to a new chapter, be it a new organization, a new company, a new position, you're going to start a business, whatever it is, analyze whether this new phase that you're going to start needs to incorporate some of the elements that really fulfill you. What in your current situation are you not finding? What are you missing? What would you like your next job, your next chapter? It doesn't need to be a job. It could be, like I said, a business. It could just be a different department. So like a different gig in your same company. What does it need to have? Plan for that. Be deliberate about it. If you can avoid it, try not to just jump. It could be that you're sick of your boss, or you're sick of your job, or you hate your company. I'm going to the extreme. This could happen. If that's the case, don't just run out the door following the first opportunity that you see going past it. Be deliberate. That's the first thing that I'll say. Be very meticulous and identify what the things are that you need, that you don't have, that you need to build into that next step that you're going to take, that next chapter that you're going to start. What does it need to have? If you are aware that it doesn't have, or it's probably not realistic to think that everything you want will be there, then fine, at least know that and go eyes wide open into that next opportunity. That's the first, that's the most important thing that I'll say you need to do when you plan a career change is, what do I need to have, particularly at this stage in your life where you're, getting closer to mature and you've been around and you know what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what you want to do. How can you better make a contribution? How can you leverage your experience? How can you bring it to the table in a way that will be satisfactory to you, that you will be fulfilled by, and that will be well appreciated and a good fit to that next job / business / occupation that you're going to find as a result of that. Let go of the fear. If you're at the stage where you're thinking that, then plan it, be careful, be deliberate, but take care of yourself. You also don't need to stay in a situation where your well-being is compromised. If you are in a very toxic environment, and you find that you are being almost physically affected, because it could happen, by a very abrasive, or let's say by a job that's not a good fit with who you are, with what you're looking for, then look for something different. And again, as you do that, think about those things that you need to find there minimally, that will be resonant with who you are, with where you want to go, with who you want to become. You've earned it. And so at this stage in your life, you have a lot of experience and a lot of things that are valuable that you can use and that people will appreciate. Don't shortchange yourself. Don't close the door on opportunities for yourself because you're thinking, oh, I'm in my mid-40s or in my 50s. I won't be able to do that. They're looking for somebody younger. Don't let that stop you. I'll stop with this. Be deliberate. Look for the things that will fulfill you. Look for where your characteristics, your skill set will be beneficial. And go for it if you need to go for it. Do not create a situation where in some years, in some time, you look back and you're like, I should have. Regret is one of the worst things. And so go for it. Just be careful, like we said. All right? I hope that helps. Let's go to the next one. Okay. Pardon my voice. How do I prepare for a challenging conversation with senior management? Well, define challenging, right? It could be, what? Are you going to push back on something? Are you going to ask for a salary increase? How would you define challenging, right? And regardless of that, the reason I think that's important is just because you need to know what exactly you want to discuss. You should not go in there and wing it, improvise. That's not what you should do if it's a challenging conversation, right? You should be ready with whatever your arguments are, to be dispassionate, to be objective, and to be open. The best thing that you have to do as you prepare for this conversation is analyze your position. Be clear about the message that you want to bring, whether it is pushback, whether it's a complaint, whether it is you're looking for an opportunity that you know is being, fought hard fought for by others. Whatever it is, make sure that you're well prepared to have that discussion. If it's challenging in the sense that there might be a confrontation, that there might be a little bit of a clash, or let's say a higher energy exchange during the session, then be ready to know that that's the case, that it might happen, that some high energy response is triggered at some point of the conversation. Know it for yourself, know it for your interlocutor, so that you're prepared. Do not take things personally. Do not make them personal. Be objective, be collaborative, and go in there thinking of the mutual benefit of you and the other person. How and why what you're bringing is going to be useful for them and beneficial. And don't make it all about me, all about myself. Go in there from a place of empathy, a place where you are trying to also understand the other person, or when you can demonstrate that you are understanding what their position is, but you have something that you might want to add, that you might want to contribute. Make it constructive. Do not make it about personalities. Do not go in there with a knife between your teeth. Don't go in there on a war footing, because that'll only set up the interaction to be abrasive, to be not constructive, right? I was going to say destructive. It's probably too strong a word. But make it so that it's constructive, so that from something that might be difficult, you can build something that's good with the other person that you're going to be talking to, with that senior manager. And I will close also by saying, if it's a point that you need to defend, that you need to stand your ground on, and you need to push back on the senior stakeholder, that senior manager that you're going to go talk to, then don't be afraid to do it. Just be objective, be clear, and be constructive, but by all means, stand your ground. From experience, I will tell you, people who do that, particularly people who do that in a constructive, respectful way, those are the people that really stand out. When you are able to defend your point of view with clear arguments in a good, constructive way, the times where I can remember people more junior to myself swaying my opinion as a senior executive were people who were firm about what they wanted, they were clear, and they were constructive. And we found ways to make it work. I'm pretty sure that senior management leader that you're going to go talk to will be open and willing to do a 180 if you are constructive, if you are clear. And even if they don't want to do anything, if nothing changes, then at least they know that you have an opinion, that you were brave enough to bring it, and that you're a constructive team member who can be counted on to speak up even when it's uncomfortable. So kudos for that. Well done for thinking of taking that uncomfortable action, and be ready for your arguments. Put them on the table in a very clear, succinct manner, and go with a constructive spirit. And I think that should help you. All right, let's go to the next one. We have 5 minutes left here. Thank you for the questions. These are good. How can I make the most of feedback when aiming for a promotion? Well, let me qualify this question, my friend. I would almost take out the last part of the question, when aiming for a promotion. I would say, how can I make the most of feedback? Full stop. Whether you're looking or aiming for a promotion or not, you should treat feedback always the same, like it's a gift. That's what feedback is. Do not take it personally. It's not an attack on you. It's not about you. It's about how you could do things better. It's all in the mindset, right? If you take all feedback like a personal affront, like an attack, that's, I think, the clearest symptom that you might be sitting in a fixed mindset. The fixed mindset is that which does not believe there's anything that they can do to improve. There's nothing new to learn. There's nothing new they can learn. Even if there's something new to learn, this is the mindset that says all dogs cannot learn new tricks. I already know what I can learn, and I'm limited, and that's it. That's all I can do. That's fixed. Instead, go for a growth mindset where you say, okay, let me take that feedback in. Let me learn from it and absorb it and improve, because I can improve. That's the growth mindset that everybody talks about these days. So it's not about you getting a promotion. It's about you absorbing and appreciating the gift that is feedback. Thank the person. Do not defend yourself. If you need to clarify, ask questions to get more clarity as to what you're trying to accomplish and why it's not working, then ask away. Ask whatever questions you need to ask, but don't take it as an attack. It's probably not. It'll only suck energy out of you. You're spending your life thinking, what is this guy after, or this gal, or whoever they are? Think about the benefit they are giving you if they give you feedback, even if it's delivered in an imperfect way, even if the person was aggressive, even if they weren't clear, even if they were irritated when they might have delivered it. There's always an opportunity to go back and have a conversation and talk about that. Feedback is a gift. Take it. Learn from it. What can you do better? Okay, that was the last question. We still have 2 minutes left, and I'm going to get out of your hair only saying I hope that you have a phenomenal weekend or rest of the week. It's only Tuesday, so it's a little early to be wishing you a happy weekend, but why not? I'll wish you a happy weekend, a happy rest of the week, a very successful and accomplished remainder for the month. And wherever you are, if it's cold, I hope that you're staying warm. Here in Seattle this morning, it got pretty cold. I mean, pretty cold for what it was the last couple of days. 2 degrees Celsius, which is like 35 Fahrenheit. So layer up, stay warm, be safe, and I will see you here in 2 weeks. Thank you for the questions. Be well. Bye.